All right. So I'm recording now. I have a permission to post this. Yes. After.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So let's set kind of the background. We talked for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes beforehand. So
Yep.
I first noticed you because you're in my streams a lot. You're very active, right? And
Yeah.
you reached out potentially to talk about migration, and then very recently you reached out for account mentoring. So here we are. You started playing in 2022 and then eventually ended
Yep.
up acquiring this account, migrated it back to KVK2, right? And then you play
KBK
KVK2.
3.
Oh, okay, you've
KBK
migrated.
3.
Okay, so and you've
Yeah.
just finished KVK3, or you're about to go into it?
We are in KBK 3 right now. Our King's Land is around 30th August.
Okay. How's the fighting? Like no fighting, or
Uh, but it hasn't started. We just started KBK. I have a lot of things to do. I need to load more resources, everything.
okay, okay. So you haven't really even fought, but just hopefully you get good fighting. But usually KVK3 is just like ruins, altars, and then
Yeah.
because of the Kingsland is so small, you get a very short Kingsland fight usually, and then that's KVK3. Like I wish it kind of updated it because in my opinion that's probably the worst KVK that they force you into, right? Because KVK4 is actually pretty fun. KVK2 is a lot of fighting too, in my opinion, relative to KVK3. So hopefully
Yeah.
you buck that trend. Okay, so what you wanted to know was just like a general direction for your account, right? So I think kind of talking to you, it sounds like you're knowledgeable with the game, and I think I know this is a lot because there's understanding or like knowing information about something, right? Even understanding it. But a lot of times what
Yeah.
actually limits people is when you understand, say, like all 11 systems in rock, when it gets down
Mhm.
to it, where do you focus, right? Do you actually divert your resources towards armaments, right? Do you focus on equipment? Should you actually go through like being a backup garrison because your kingdom needs it, right? Like there's almost like too many
Yeah.
projects at once, and it's actually figuring out which one to do first. But like once you start there, you actually know what to do, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
common. Okay, so this account, just looking at this account, right? It's old, so it's not a
Yeah.
94 ID. It's actually a 9 million and then 497,618 ID. So it's very old. I think you told me. Well, I think I know. You told me you're good friends with the king. One of the reasons why
Yeah.
you actually migrated back. So the plan is to actually stay in this kingdom, as long provided it it's working out and doing well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then let's go to the next page, and this is your equipment. So you sent me 4 sets. This fifth set that's on my screen right here, you showed a Trajan. If you were gonna go to a fifth set, I can just tell you right now, I think you should go Cav. I don't do
Yeah.
leadership. Yeah, I don't do leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for my fifth set, yeah.
Yeah, because especially like the way this is already constructed, like I'm not as familiar because usually you see a Navarre's control, but this is the Cav glove, right? So you literally just have all Cav equipment here, right? And then
Yeah.
if anything, you have one leadership. I assume because this account's so old, this is before leadership equipment came out. So someone made a hope cloak and then critted it for leadership,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's actually not bad.
Mhm.
If you had to go 3 of a troop type, I actually think Cav is the deepest, and you can make it work, right? Like technically, you can make infantry and archer work. I think it's slightly worse. I think if you want to go like the deepest as far as like commanders being viable, close enough to the meta, I still think it's Cav. Okay, so that's something where you already have the equipment made. It's just getting the commanders. Like right now, how many gold heads do you have?
I think around 500,
Around
around 4 to
500.
500.
Okay, and then
Okay.
okay, and then what was your plan for commanders before I give my feedback?
So my plan for commanders would be to go for a second archer march because,
Uh huh.
okay, currently right now my
Yeah.
third cav march would be a XY and Justinian, but then my Justinian is quite low skilled.
Yeah.
My XY is expertise, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to invest in someone like Belly because that
Yeah.
is the natural progression to go to Belly. So I was thinking of going archer, maybe something like an Ash, and then maybe the new archer commander. That's what I was thinking
Okay.
of.
And then did you how long have you had this account for?
since around the start of the year.
Okay, so like 7, 8 months.
Yeah,
Okay, did you craft this last set here that doesn't really have a home yet, or was it already there when you took it over?
it was already there.
Okay. Um. Okay. So you're thinking of going for 2 archers with 500 gold
Yes.
heads. Okay. Well, let me kind of go through just some of my thoughts, like looking through this account, and then we could start like
Sure.
honing in on the specific areas, right? So I mentioned the account age right here. Obviously, it's a older account, right? This account pot was probably made late 2018, sometime in 2018, most
Yeah.
likely. And
Probably 28.
now with this account, if you were going to migrate it, even though you don't have any plans of doing that right now, you can. I think, especially with this like equipment, I think you could get into a mid, any like up to a mid AC pretty easily. Once you want to get to a high A seed, it really depends on the kingdom. Some of the high A seed, might not take you depending on what the autarch is. Some might take you, right? So that's about where it's at right now. And I'm bringing that up because there's almost like a threshold to reach a certain level, right? And like the threshold I'm talking about, like that high A, is I don't know if you ever been a server. I actually got my first serving job when I was a server in college, right? And before then, I knew like, hey, like there's not a lot of ways to make a decent amount of money as a college student. If I go be a server, you could actually make pretty good money. And wherever I went, whichever restaurant I went to, they're like, "Do you have serving experience?" I'm like, "No," and they just didn't hire me. So it's almost like,
Yeah.
well, if you want to be a server, how do you actually become a server without serving experience? Because everyone with serving experience had to start somewhere, right? So how did they start? So I quickly realized, well, usually what they do is, they either work at a restaurant as like a busboy or like a host or hostess or something, right? Or they find a restaurant that really needs people to get in, and then once they kind of get that experience, the doors open up. It's a lot easier, right? For
Yeah.
me and Rock to actually cross into that high A like competitive area, and that's where, in my opinion, it gets really competitive. It doesn't mean there's not good players at lower seeding, but usually the KVKs become very one-sided. So you could have a really good player there, but they're not necessarily fighting in like long, drawn-out, hard KVKs. Just because even if the two kingdoms are pretty evenly matched, one side usually will run out of resources, speeds, or just players willing to participate a lot quicker, right? Whereas when you get to the high A and longer, what I noticed, and you can see this when you watch like streams and KVKs, those high A and longer, because there's just more resources available, they fight a lot longer. So this account, hopefully, in KVK3, you get some fighting, but I would say if I was looking at an account like this, I personally would like to see at least like 1.2 bill KP uh, to kind of consider doing a voice interview to potentially bring them into 68. And 68 right now is a high A, or like more recently we've been like a low mid imp. So we're not even like near the very top, right? We're kind of like that next tier down. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's like something to shoot for. Just so you have that versatility where because you have an autarch that shows how you've done in the KVK. Uh, if you wanted to potentially migrate, and you sound like you're someone that like is very into the game that likes to like get big fights and stuff, I would say like 1.2 bill KP is something to shoot for. Okay.
Yeah.
Now looking at this, uh, the commanders are fine. If I was going to do 4 marches, I would do one inf, 1 archer, and then 2 cavalry. Right. That's actually the route I would do if I was going to do 4 marches. Uh, the biggest weakness I actually see this in account right now is actually your armaments. And it's not so much that there's a lot of rainbow stats. It's that usually for me to kind of like reach the first milestone where I think an armament is past that first big checkpoint, it's that there's at least 4 armaments or 4 inscriptions per armament. So that means you at least have one in each slot, right? Or maybe you got a double. But like at this point in the game, with
Yeah.
how they're doing the armament system, you actually want to prioritize with the inscription first. Then you can roll the stats to get it clean, right? So you want not only 4 good inscriptions, but you actually want I mean, 4 inscriptions, but you want the inscriptions to actually be like pretty good. So for example, something like right here in this like archer with a retaliatory, right? You get counterattack damage. That's one of the weaker ones,
Yeah.
right? Whereas like robust is really good. Brawler, I think you get 3.5 attack if I'm not mistaken. Uh,
Yeah.
right, like this one right here on the infantry, robust and hardy. Those are like two of the best. They're both health, right? They're both of the. I think the three best common ones, if I had to just say off the top of my head, would be breaker. That's one where you could do a defense reduction. Robust and hardy,
Yeah.
or anything that gives 3.5% health. And then I really like assertive. Assertive, you essentially, if you're on the map, you do 2% more all damage, which is very, very strong. Okay, so for you right now, if I was spending money, and I think like you consider yourself like a low mid spend, right? So in KVK about $200, out of KVK about 130, right?
Yeah.
It seems like Lilith is rolling out more ways to get armaments now, and then obviously they have that like $5 bundle where you get 3 purple armaments chests that could potentially be upgraded to legendary a week for 7 days. Right, like that,
Yeah.
I would definitely get that over some other stuff because like wherever's the weakest means you could spend the least amount of resources to get the biggest upgrade. Right, so if
Yeah.
you were gonna take like your infantry set, which is already like pretty good, and you wanted to go from like iconic 1 to get everything to iconic 2 or something, right? The amount of stats you'll gain versus like the blueprints and the material you spend uh, would be way less than if you just upgraded the armaments down here and get like 4 good inscriptions on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Now, having said that, uh, looking at your equipment here, uh, this first 4 set is pretty much done, right? Like at this point, if you were gonna craft an archer helm, I would craft the KVK set helm. I mean the KVK archer helm.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're going Milky Way, and I forgot the name of this archer glove, I think gives
Ian's
you attack
choice.
Ian's choice,
Yeah.
right? And then you have the 2-piece leadership here. Going for Dragon's Breath, you're literally just getting less attack than if you just went with
Yeah.
the KVK helm, right? So like you could do that, sorry, to complete it. And then the other one is obviously just getting another accessory here for a smite damage march. I would actually ideally, I would actually do a greatest glory and a ring in those slots. And then I would actually want to move this dagger over to a march that's a little faster, right? So like since you have 2 cab marches here, I know you're running like a horn and a ring. I would actually want to move a dagger over there and then move the horn somewhere else. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And it's actually good that
Yeah.
you
Makes.
it's actually good that you have 2 daggers. I don't know if you saw some of my I think my last mentoring stream where we were talking about this. Dagger, if you're just running one dagger, it's not really worth it. Just because you need to actually apply the stack, get it up to 3 stacks to get that 15% health debuff, right? And then the chances of actually doing that, I always keep forgetting the percentages, but it's just not high enough. Like within 3 seconds, if you don't apply it, it's gonna drop off. But one dagger, the chances of it dropping off, uh, even to get before you get to 3 stack is too high. And even if you were somehow lucky and you get 3 stacks, the chances of it actually not keep renewing is pretty high. Whereas if you have 2 daggers, every 3 seconds, you have an 89% chance of applying another stack, right? So that becomes a lot more worth
Yeah.
it. Whereas like I think it's actually down to like 60% or maybe even lower if you just have one dagger, right? So
Mhm.
for me, it's either no dagger at all, but I think it's actually really good. It's very, very underrated. I think a dagger, in my opinion, is actually better than a horn. But I would actually do 2
Yeah.
daggers. You already have that. Okay, and it's just kind of moving around to put it on the right march. The thought process of putting it on a cab is that because it's fastest, it's the easiest to actually connect with the target. And as soon as you start doing a basic attack, you have a chance to apply that stack.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is really tricky because you have a whole set of cav equipment for your 5th march, but you want to go archer. So if you did go
Yeah.
archer, what were you gonna do with that?
Uh, I mean, I'll probably keep it because, of course, we know the history of cavalry is that they get a lot of broken releases. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that they have something broken coming up that I can pair with XY or something that I can pair with Attila because I also
Right.
have Attila. So if they bring out some smite damage commander, I can revive Attila and do use it. Like artifact KVKs, I might just use a tiller, but
Yeah.
honestly, it's just gonna sit there because
Okay.
if I run a third Cav March, it doesn't trade that well. And
Yeah. So
honestly, unless we really need it, I don't run it.
now, if you were gonna do a second Archer March, what were you gonna do? Were you just gonna
Probably,
get the Archer March and
yeah,
then like just keep the equipment on the side and then craft a new set of Archer equipment?
yeah, most
Okay.
likely something along that lines.
Okay. Um. Eventually, how many marches would you like to run?
Probably 5, and maybe into the future 6.
Okay.
But I think 6 will be the max.
Okay. Let me think. So you started in 2022. Have you ever actually got to play SOC?
Yes, I played like one SOC KVK or like 2 of them.
Okay. So how far, like how far do you think you're actually getting in tech by say, let's just say Kingsland? Like when Kingsland opens, do you have enough to get like a 6 March? Like about like how far do you think you get?
I can get to the 6 March, yeah.
Okay.
I can get quite far along. Like the last
Mhm.
KVK that I did this year, I got quite far along, though I there were some bundles that I didn't buy because at the time I just didn't feel it was the most worth. But
Yeah.
if I'm to go max all the pop-ups, everything, then yeah, I'll probably be much further along. I also didn't have the most time for chaining, so
Okay. And then
I'm definitely able to get 6 March.
okay. And then you have Alex on this account.
No, which is why I was thinking Archer
Okay.
instead of Inf.
Okay. Okay. So here, this is my thought process on this. For a low misspend, and you have 500 gold heads, so you could actually expertise Herman if you wanted to right now, right?
Yes.
I would actually, even though like his expertise isn't necessarily amazing, and his like force skill is like okay, right? Like it's okay. It'll make him stronger. Maybe it's making him like 8% stronger or something, but it's not like game breaking or anything. And then you add the expertise, maybe it's making him like 5% stronger. So maybe Herman will be like 15% strong, like 13% stronger. I'm just making a number, right? It's probably somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
If you expertise him, I still think it's worth it. Just because if I had to take a guess, I think this next Archer Commander will kind of be in line with what William Wallace is and what Belisarius is. But I like good on par with like some of the other commanders like in that range, but not the best commander of that troop type. And it'll be someone where like, you know, it'll be debatable whether it's worth investing in over say like Boudica or Ashurbanipal, or maybe even like YSG with a triple relic, right? So
Yeah.
so if that's the case, like you can wait. I mean, you can wait to see, since now that William Wallace has been out for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Usually it's about like 45 days until they'll announce what the next commander is. You can wait till then. But if I was a betting man, I would actually guess that it'll be pretty good, but not game breaking. And they'll kind of do a whole cycle like this to kind of slow down the power creep and let people catch up. Because there's a lot of complaints about gold heads before these last two commanders, and then we'll see what they do with the cycle after that. Like, do they go back to like the big power creep jumps? Do they actually kind of continue this and just make it a lot more diverse, right? Like, to make it a lot more interesting. Like, we don't know what direction they're going in, but if the cav and the infantry kind of fall where they are, and then Archer is next, like it would make sense that the Archer is probably going to be good, but not game breaking. And then, for lack of a better word, like if you already have Zeal Herman, it's probably skippable, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like for you, the easiest path to maximize your account would actually be to go 3 calves before you go to archers, because you could skip a lot of the not even the work, right, but like the amount of resources, because you already have a calf set. So to bench a whole calf set, and I definitely don't think you should dismantle it, but to bench a whole calf set just to start on a whole new set of archer equipment and invest in 2 archer commanders is a huge commitment.
Yeah.
right? So so like while you're doing that, right, you literally have a calf set just sitting on the bench. It it almost like kind of hurts, right? So like for me, what I'm saying is you either actually go cav, or you can actually kind of wait a little bit, save up some gold heads, and be really, really opportunistic to pick like the right commanders to invest in, and then just run forward in the time being.
Yeah.
All right, but like to go archer, I think that project will actually divert you a little bit too far, and it's just not efficient as far as maximizing your account.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and like I know like it gets boring after a while because like for me, right, like if I have a long off season, I'm just like hoarding say material, sometimes just out of just to break the boredom. I'll upgrade something that I shouldn't, just from like awaken 2 to 3 or something, even though you're just getting troop
Yeah.
capacity. But I'm just like, okay, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm just doing this more for my personal gratification and like sanity, not because it's like the best efficiency play for my account. And I'm totally okay with that. But just like as long as you know what you're doing when you're doing it, and you're not trying to justify how it's like this great play. It's not. I'm talking about for me, like going to Awaken 2 to
Yeah.
Awaken 3. It's just out of boredom. I just want to change it up a little bit. All
Yeah.
right, that would be my opinion because to go like Archer one, to go Archer before you finish Herman would be kind of weird. Like just finish Herman, right? Because he's that good, and the force skill and the expertise is like okay enough where like you want to just have really really quality in your marches, and then from there I would actually save up the gold heads and then determine whether the archer is even worth it. Most likely it's not, but like maybe I should just save up, and then when you go into it again, you can actually uh, maybe just do cav next since you have a while for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you get really far ahead, right, and then you want to come back and invest these things, like if you have saved up, it's a lot easier. But when you're still kind of like struggling with getting ahead in gold heads, right, and then I like how are you? Like how many legendary masks do you have right now?
Think I might have like 40 or 50. I have a decent amount right now because I'm just not crafting anything.
Yeah. Okay. So like 40 to 50, right? You could finish the KVK helm for the archer. You can actually get greatest glory for the arch from not the archer, the smite damage for the infantry march, right? And you could
Yeah.
actually still make your 4 marches better, and then kind of let this other stuff sit on the side, and then get ahead. And then when you can make a decision, let's just say after this cycle, a slam dunk calf commander comes out, right? That will make
Yeah.
it a very easy invest, and you don't have to decide, oh well, I feel like I'm forced to invest in belly right now, right?
Yeah.
That would actually be my recommendation. I think if you go archer right now, you'll actually set your account back. You know, like it's just because it'll take a while for the archer to be usable, and then just
Yeah.
to have like almost like a full, not almost, you have a full cast set sitting on the bench. It's a little painful for me to watch. Okay.
Yeah.
So having said that, what are some of your thoughts and then like pushback? Do you think like that's like you don't agree with that? It's again, this is just my opinion. Like there's no right way, and I'll say this: at the end of the day, this is a video game, and I think sometimes people forget like they're like so fixated on doing the right thing, or like what's the right thing, or I need to do this and this because this content creator or this authority figure said so, and it's not as fun for them, right? And whereas if you do something that's not as fun for you, even if it's quote unquote the better play, sometimes it feels like work, sometimes it feels like a burnout. Like if you're just really into calves, like just run calves, and have fun with it instead of trying to go infantry and trying to go archer, and you don't enjoy it as much. Like I feel like sometimes people almost get too fixated on quote unquote doing the right thing, as opposed to doing a mix where there's the right thing for you, which might not be the most optimal, but maximizing your enjoyment, and because you enjoy it, overall you'll actually do a lot better.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the thoughts with some of the stuff I said so far?
I think I agree with you about waiting for Archer because let's just say if the next Archer commander is on the line of like William Wallace or like Belisarius, it's like it's okay. Maybe it can replace Boudica, but then it's not like crazy good that it's like a confirmed event, definite invest, as opposed to if like the next cavalry cycle just gives you a crazy good commander, then obviously I'm gonna go 3 cav. So
Yeah.
I
So
feel that that's good advice.
do you have Boudica
And
right
then
now?
also no, that's another thing. Like some of my commanders are just like not in the correct
Okay,
places that I
but
need
you
them
do
to be.
you do have a YSG?
No.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
I was
What
thinking of just
what did this guy invest in then? Holy crap. Okay.
I was just thinking of getting Ash and just waiting for the next
Okay.
commander
Okay.
cycle. Of course, the next commander
Uh,
cycle can't be SG.
I would not invest in Ash. I think I think he's a good archer commander now. But
Yeah.
there's no like real special thing that he does, right? Like he has this like random stat thing from his expertise that looks pretty good. Uh,
Yeah.
does he even boost? He boosts skill damage, right? But like not that much.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it
100% sure
boosts.
about
I think it
that.
boosts skill damage, but not that much. I'm asking because I actually don't have them, and let me take a look real quick.
Okay.
Right now is it still the screen showing your equipment?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually in the game. Let's see, Asher Benepal. Oh wait, I didn't lock him. That's why. Okay, yeah. So his kit looks very interesting, right? Because he has like that 5 target AOE, and then he'll actually do extra damage to 1 target. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People hate on his march speed because they say it's outside of Alliance territory, but when you're on territory, you get like I think 32 or 35% extra march speed, anyways. You actually
Yeah.
really don't need march speed unless you're off territory, anyways. Like he has good stats.
Yeah. Yeah.
20% skill damage bonus, right? 20% normal damage reduction. He's actually one of the few commanders that has significantly more smite damage reduction than a lot of commanders. But like, it's just he just isn't really doing anything that's special. It's almost like a AOE version of say someone like Tariq to me, right? Like
Yeah.
like at the time he's good, but like you could see a scenario where he falls off pretty quick. So maybe if somehow like this new Archer Commander is designed to pair really well with Ash, and then you do Ash and the new Archer Commander, I could see that. But I think it's
Yeah.
kind of risky to actually want to make that call before you even see what the next Archer Commander is.
Okay. Yeah. I get you.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I think for this 4 sets, I would get a Greatest Glory for the Infantry March. I would finish the KVK Helm, and then I would actually just save up the rest of my mats until I kind of see what's going on with the commander cycles.
Yeah.
Right. This
Yeah.
way,
Yeah. Yeah.
like this way, you're you could get further ahead, and then you know if you I mean technically if you want to right now, all 4 of your marches could be like full legendary, right? Because right now you just have that march speed flag on the ZL
Yeah.
Hermit, but you could that march. It's I think with ZL Hermit, it's fast enough with his 15% Mars speed. You could probably get away with not using a flag on it, right? Especially
Yeah.
if you actually do get to like Awaken 4 or Awaken 5 with those leadership boots, right?
Yeah.
But like I think that will actually be a pretty good place for you. And I'll just tell you right now, I know you're like you have what 5 crits on that calf set right now, so it looks pretty good. I don't
Yeah.
think you should. Well, let me ask. Like, when you say like backup garrison, what does that entail for you? Like, what were you gonna do with your equipment?
Probably just like waiting on blueprints because blueprints is always the bottleneck for me at least.
Yeah,
Just waiting for blueprints and see how they roll. Like if I get like lucky for blueprints, then I just put a little bit more into the
the calf
main
set.
cav set and then
Okay,
slowly build it up, but maybe a bit faster than what I would have previously done.
okay. Um, That actually wouldn't be very bad for your account after you do the two things I talked about, right? So like getting another accessory for getting the greatest glory for Scipio Luce, and
Yeah,
then finishing the KVK helm for the archer. Because by then, right, you have all iconics. You already have some like iconic twos mixed in, uh, and
yeah,
because you already have so many crits on the Cav set, like once something is crit, it's not that big. It's not that big of a deal to get it to crit 5. I mean, awaken 5. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because like it's you get a 30% bonus if it's crit. So like every single awaken level, you get 30% more bonus. Usually the general order is you get to awaken 2, right? And then you want to crit it before you go further to kind of maximize the effectiveness of it. Right. So
yeah.
since everything else is pretty much all the way there, like the only like micro optimization after you get a greatest glory, a KVK helm would be okay, you get everything that's in awaken 1 to awaken 2, then you want to start getting all the awaken 2s that are crit to awaken 5, right? So like that is not that is not like a bad play to like. And then if you do that right, you really focus on that calf set and it becomes like a backup garrison. You could do that. But if your
Yeah.
equipment and stuff wasn't there and you were trying to do that with your calf set, then I think overall it's not healthy for your account, right? But just because like in general, you either hyper specialize and you really sacrifice your open fielding to be a good garrison rally, or for someone when you're spend level activity, you just kind of want to maximize your ability to contribute on the field, right? But really, only like big whales and krakens can really effectively do both, and not really sacrifice too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so you said when you sent me the stats, I think you said you got like 25 mil kills in your last
Yeah.
KVK. Was that the KVK 2 or where was that? What KVK was that?
That was Alliance Invictus KVK versus 2975.
Oh,
Ironically.
this last one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're fighting them. We're about to fight them in this
Yeah.
KVK. You saw some of the drama, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I actually did watch some of that KVK, and uh, it actually seeing kind of what happened in there, and then what happened, it actually made me feel a little bit better about our matchup this time. I'll put it that way. Uh,
Yeah.
okay. So I think that's what I would recommend for your commanders and your equipment, right? But I think if I was going to give you a place to really focus on, it's actually your armaments. I think that's where you could get like the biggest jump in your stats.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, like specifically the two with two uh, inscriptions.
Yeah.
Now, I I personally would actually focus on Arch first, just because I the whatever the Lucia March is, in my opinion, is just gonna be your best March, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't even run it yet. You're just
Yeah.
like I first it's like, oh man, I didn't trade well, right? You like every other March traded negative, and somehow the Lucia March will still trade positive. Like it's crazy. Like it was doing that with Scipio Lucia. It was definitely doing that with Lucia Alex. I feel like you could run Lucia with a lot of commanders, and you'll get that effect, right? So for me, like it's almost like a priority where I really want to maximize. I really actually want to like maximize the infantry march, and since that's also like one of your weaker quote unquote armaments based on inscriptions, like that's actually just where I would go first. And the way to do that is you pull arch and then you just want to get the inscriptions, right? If you actually have a good inscription in every slot, honestly, even if it's not that good of an inscription, especially with the ability to get like more inscriptions now to inscribe over what you already have, uh, I think even just getting like 2 more average inscriptions would be good enough if you don't want to just waste all your armaments on Arch. Okay,
Yeah.
but like but like for example, like basically you have a budget in front of you, you're like, okay, where do I spend? Like anytime there's a chance to spend gems or money on armaments, I would actually prioritize that. Like it's your equipment is way ahead of your armaments.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then I made a video a few months ago at this point, but it's talking about the easiest way to do armaments, and it's really making sure that you're not hoarding, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
hoarding, those are potential transmutation stones that you're just keeping in as armaments that you're not using. But secondarily, and probably more importantly, when you have a lot of armaments that are kind of in the same range, it actually is like paralysis by like just too many things to try to figure out, and then people just don't make a decision, and then they just kind of keep hoarding, right? So
Yeah.
I'm saying like if you actually are very diligent with cleaning up your armaments, if you're planning on running 6 marches, right, at most you would need 2 for each troop type, right? So then anything
Yeah.
beyond that, unless it's like a very high potential one, like for example, you get something with like 3.5 health, 3.3 defense, and no inscription on it, right? You keep it because you could potentially get an inscription later on and scribe over it. And all of a sudden, you have a really great place to start, and you only need to just roll like a 1.5 attack, and it'll still be a really, really great armament. So you're either keeping something that you're using now, or you're keeping some like high upside armaments, but you don't want a lot of armaments for you. And without actually seeing your armaments, because I didn't ask for it, I have a feeling you probably have uh, some room to clean up there with your armaments.
Yeah. I think a bit. It's not the most actually.
Yeah. So like get it down. So like for
Yeah.
example, right? Like if I plan on running, like right now I run 7, but one is siege. I'm not gonna keep more than 3 of each troop type in my inventory. Like for wedge, even for arch, right now I'm just keeping like enough for one of each troop type. Even though I probably won't use arch for archer or cav, just in case in the future. You never know. Right, but like
Yeah.
I still try to keep it very very lean, just because I don't have again inventory sitting there that I can recycle for transmutation stones, but it makes the decision making really easy. Whenever there's something that comes that I pull in like a crate, I'll save it and then I'll start comparing to what else I have, and then whatever is worse, even if it's really really good, if it's worse than what I already have, I'll just like unlock it and I'll just I'll recycle it right away. So I just don't let it build
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I
Okay.
understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and then you did mention you had like a you have a laptop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you like? Are you using hotkeys when you're moving around on the field? Like where you like you select all, like you keep on into one or two. Like how are you with hotkeying or like?
Usually, I just select all my troops and then put it in a formation. Then I just keep on pressing that key to select it because I find that
Okay.
easier
Okay.
than just like saying Control A or whatever to
Okay.
select all on your screen. I just
Yeah.
do that and then
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for each
Okay.
individual match. Obviously,
It's yeah,
they
it's
get
what kind of weird, right? Because like unless I see you actually fighting on the field, it's hard to evaluate how well someone is controlling that. But my feeling is it's like this isn't Call of Duty, right? It doesn't require like lightning quick reaction time, and then or like StarCraft where you know to micromanage like a bunch of stuff at once. Like you can like push the output a little bit more when you're really good at doing small stuff like that. But even if you're not, you're just selecting all. Like as long as you know how to select all, and then you know how to position yourself like right at the edge, where but you don't put yourself way out of position, like you'll do pretty good. Right. So I just want
yeah,
to check at least that you're playing on a laptop though. So
yeah,
yeah, that's where I would go with that. And you said you're in R4 now.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see how it's hard for like I can't even look up your kingdom because it's so young in the 1093 stuff. Uh, what are your what like you have any plans like as far as like leadership stuff, R4 stuff, or are you just kind of happy with what you're doing now?
Uh, I think I'm just happy with what I'm doing now because I think currently I'm doing a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my general sensing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say overall, if I looked at this account, right, like it like what's so the most right now you have on an arc is 25 mil.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I would shoot for like 1.2 bill. So usually if you're assuming most T5, some T4, and what you're fighting, right? Probably not in KBK3, but beyond that, usually that'll come out to like about like 70 mil kills, right? I think that'll be a good goal for you to shoot for. Just so you have that in your back pocket, where if you did want to eventually move up in competition and do that, you'll be able to do it fairly easily with that stat. And then in the meantime, I would
yeah,
keep it at 4 marches. Finish the accessory for the infantry, the helm for the uh, archer, and just finish Herman, and then save your gold heads and save your mass to kind of like see what's going on. I will say this: this hope cloak right over here. It's something that
yeah,
like once your equipment gets far enough along, you probably actually eventually want to dismantle that, right? Just because like
yeah,
once it's leadership like that, okay, you'll never be able to crit that. And to actually put that to Awaken 2 and Awaken 3, it's just not worth it, right? So like that'll be a project way down the line, right? Like when your whatever you want to do is mostly finished. But I would not get that Hope Cloak even to Awaken 2.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, I know I've been doing most of the talking. Like, you have any questions, specific questions or comments or anything?
I was just wondering, like, because you're talking about armaments, because the main problem for me for armaments is that when I get inscriptions that are decent, I do roll them. I just like keep rolling them, and then
Yeah,
they just never roll nicely. But then like there's some, because right now at least looking at like my inf march or my second calf,
yeah,
the thing about them is that I just have some really good stats. Like they're like 333,
yeah,
so they have crazy high stats. So I'm like, in my mind, I feel that
yeah,
they're more value than getting an inscription. But then I
yeah.
just not
Uh,
100% sure
It's easy to
because
fall. It's easy to fall in that trap, right? But like if you think about it, so for example, robust and hardy for your infantry, they're both 3.5 health,
yeah,
right? That's the best you could do in infantry stats. So usually, if someone
yeah,
gets like a 2.7 or something, right, they're like, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's really solid." Right? They're not gonna say it's great, but it's very, very solid. They're happy if they get that. Like they could work with it. So
yeah,
uh, if you think about the we'll just use robust and hardy because it's a direct like one-to-one translation, right? Usually for like a decent inscription, it's as good as the best you could do for that stat anyways, right? Because if you get, say, metallic, right, that's 3.5 defense. So
yeah,
like that's highest you can get, right? So if you, and part of the reason why maybe in the short term, let's just say you have a no inscription armament, right? But you have like 333 for the stats, right? That's amazing.
yeah,
But if you had no inscription on there, I could literally do 222 for the stats and then a hardy, and that's actually better than the 333, right? Because not only
yeah,
do you have zero point 0.5 more stats, right? Because you get 3.5 stats from the hardy. If you do 222 compared to 333, uh, you're only 3 stats short. I don't know if it's easy to describe that using voice, but once you have a decent inscription on there, it doesn't take a lot of stats for it to equal armament with no inscription, but a lot of stats. And then the upside is way higher because the inscription is pretty good, right? You just literally need to just reroll, kind of get lucky, and then it'll go up a lot. If you actually wanted to do the math for this, there's something called a binomial distribution calculator, where it'll be
yeah,
like, okay, there's how many turns that you want to do, right? You could put 10 for the turns, and then it's like what's the percentage or probability that you're going to hit per turn, and for a scroll and a banner or scroll and a instrument, it's 17%, right? And then you could literally
mm-hmm,
put 10 turns, right? So for example, if you were locking 2 stats for the squirrel and you were trying to get this third stat and it's a 17% chance and you plug it into the calculator, it'll tell you that in 10 tries, there's an 83% chance that somewhere in the 10 tries, you'll get the third stat once. It could be 1.5, it could be 3.5, but it'll at least pop up. Right, so
yeah,
that's just a probability. Sometimes you'll get lucky, sometimes you won't. But I think like kind of knowing that math will make it a lot more worth it. Now, if you're doing two, if you're rolling it 2 times, not 2 times. If you use a transmutation crystal, right, and then you could do
Yeah.
it 10 more times, so now you have 20 turns. That percentage goes up to like the mid 90s, or is it
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
not mid 90s? I think it's 97%. And then if you and then there's someone that told me they got really unlucky. They had to actually reroll 30 times. To even have to reroll 30 times to get the stat, I thought like the percentage was like 99.7% or something. It was astronomically low to not actually get the stat you want in 30 turns. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, like I feel like if you understand the math, right, then it's just like, oh, I'm just so unlucky when it's just the math's just the math. You know, like there's no
Yeah.
like Lilith system where like, oh, usually it's 83% chance you'll get it, but yours just going to be extra unlucky. You know, you're at like 30%. So
Yeah.
I try to calculate it that way where, okay, if I know I'm going to roll, okay, I'm going to have 50 transmutation stones ready. So if I had to do 10 turns, right, I could do all 10 turns if I wanted to. And that'll actually probably end up being one of my streams. Because right now I do have like a V formation one that I want to get the third stat on it. And I'm just waiting for KVK to get some fight. I think you need either fighting or honor or something, and I could get a transmutation crystal, and I'm gonna go for it. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I get really unlucky on 10 turns, there was a 17% chance I wasn't gonna get it in 10 turns, and I just kind of live with that. Right? It just is what it is. Okay,
Yeah.
but like in general, like a very long-winded way of saying, you want to go for the inscription first because then it makes it where you could get very low stats and it will actually still give you more stats in the high triple stat with no inscription.
Yeah.
Right now, you do want to keep the high double or triple stat formation because there are ways to get like pull inscriptions. Right, like if you like recycle the 180 legendary, then you could get a shard and potentially an inscription. That's like one way to get it. And my feeling
Yeah.
is as this armament system progresses, Lilith is probably going to release more ways for you to actually just get inscriptions to put onto an armament. So it's still good to keep it around just in case, right? And it doesn't really hurt you to keep that around. But
Yeah.
right now, the quote unquote meta for armaments is to actually prioritize the inscription first.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. I think I feel like I kind of talk faster and I cover a lot of stuff. Maybe this part you want to rewatch it, but yeah, I would say, let's just say this infantry right here, right? Let's just say you cleaned it up, right, and you're getting like 10% attack, 8.2% defense, 12.3% health, and then the march speed, but then none of the siege defense or gathering and 2 inscriptions. It'll look really clean and it'll look nice, but there could literally be a 4 inscription armament with a bunch of rainbow stats, and then the infantry stat is a lot lower, and statistically it could actually be better. Right, so
Yeah.
there's what looks good and then what works the best. Ideally, we have something that looks good and works best, but if you had to choose one, I would actually just try to get the inscriptions done first. Then you can slowly work on rolling it and cleaning up the stats. I'll feel a lot better.
Yeah. I think at least for my account, like at least for the 180 transmutation thing,
Yeah,
I got a bit unlucky if y'all say that because I never got the inscription for it despite rolling like 3 chests.
yeah, it's
Which is
it's fairly low.
I don't
I think at this point I've done 11 of those, right? So I've
yeah.
already gotten the balance, and I think I did 3 more. And I for sure got 1 inscription. I think I got 2 total. I think I got 2 inscriptions total out of 11. So
Yeah.
it's not, you know, like either I'm unlucky or I think the percentages wasn't that high. I think I've seen the percentages before. I think, you know, but they even changed it because before you used to be able to get like epic inscriptions, which are useless,
Oh yeah.
right? And then at least they took that out. So like everything you get is at least transmutation stones or something. But
Mhm.
but yeah, but it's just it's one of those where just keep the high upside ones like with high stats and no inscription, just in case you do get an inscription. And I do think if I was a betting man, I do think Lilith, as this armament system gets further along, uh, part of the reason why I think they're going to do this too is like you'll notice this with games, right? They'll still make it where if you spent more or you have more time in something, you'll have an advantage, but they'll actually always start introducing some kind of like catch up or pity system, or some kind of mechanism to make it easier. So like if a player was starting in 2024 or 2025, they're not so far behind someone that started doing these armaments like at the beginning of 2023, that they can at least be competitive within range, right? Maybe they're a little worse, but they're not going to be so far off that it's just like, what's the point of playing? They quit, right? So just the
Yeah.
nature, like just by the nature of this kind of game, I would bet it's high likely that they're going to give ways to bridge that gap. And one of the ways to bridge that gap is to make it easier to actually inscribe armaments you already have. Which is why, like, if you look at the very first iteration of this armament system, like you couldn't reroll, right? You could literally pull a hunter and then like triple siege stats or something, and you would still put it on your cav because it's better than the triple stat cav one with no inscription, right?
Yeah.
Like they didn't even get so.
Yeah.
So they have already been doing this over the last when did this armament system go? I guess at this point it's a little over a year and a half, right? They've already made it easier and easier over the last year and a half, and I don't think it's necessarily to be super stingy. It's just the way games like this work. If you make it too easy and everyone already maxes it right away, then there's nowhere to go, right? So
Yeah.
this was before my time, but I was actually like looking at old videos because I'm a nerd. When the equipment system first came out, they didn't just have like iron, ebony, and leather, right? They had, I think, 6 different kind of materials that you had to collect. It was very, very complex,
And
and they had a lot of stuff, right? And then they started making it
yeah.
easier. Like even more recently, they made the KVK weapon and the KVK like items cheaper to craft, right? And part of the reason
Yeah.
is to actually help bridge that gap. So um, that's my feeling, right? There's no confirmation. Like I don't work for Lilith. I'm just I actually I do have a contract with them as a content creator, but I don't work for them in that way. I can make whatever I want, but I do feel it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think honestly the armament system is just a new thing, and then Liv is just gonna slowly figure it out, like with equipment. Because I think equipment is at the stage where, with the new iconic system, they kind of figured it out and are just expanding on it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I personally like the armament system because there is some like math and ways you could do to maximize your odds, right? So it's a still game of chance, but there's like several things you could do to maximize your odds, and then it's one of the few things in the game where I feel like if I'm smarter about it, I can actually get an edge on a lot of people. So I personally like it, but I get why people don't like it because you could save up 50 transmutation stones to roll 10 times, and only 83% of the time you're going to get the stat, right? So it could literally, you could save all of it up, have a prep, and then 17% of the chance of the time it's just going to go down the drain, right? Because at least if you're refining for a crit, even if you don't get it right away, you could at least get a quarter of the way there, right? And you do that 4 times, you'll get the crit. But if you
Yeah.
fail in the armament, right, there's no like, oh, you put in all this work. It's just no, that's gone, and then now you need to use the transmutation crystal to prepare yourself to potentially get hurt again. so yeah, so I
Yeah.
get why people hate it, but I just like it for that reason.
Yeah. I agree with that, because I feel like with the armament system, there are certain ways where you can still get an edge, though. It's a game of chance, and a complete F2P can have a better set than some whales
Yeah,
in some cases.
like Texas Hold'em is a game of chance too, right? And like the
Yeah.
person with the worst odds can end up sucking out and winning, but if you make the right play consistently over time, you're just gonna have a big edge over other people. So another way to think about it is just think about it like that, as opposed to looking at like one isolated incident. Because I never actually pulled a legendary armament before, and I've actually spent a decent amount on it. And then there's people I know that spent less than me that have already gotten 3, like not even 100. Like they just pulled legendary 3 legendary armaments just out of luck, right? And what do you do? Because I know I had a lot more chances than that person, and they have 3 and I have 0. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, I would actually I don't know. I did mention this, but I would actually work on this leadership boots. Get that to at least to awaken 4 um, when you can. I think I would actually, let me think. So if I mentioned the greatest glory, the KVK helm for the archer, or the boots,
Yeah.
I would actually do the boots first, because the boots first will allow you to move that flag out of there, and then you can actually move another legendary accessory there. I would probably do a ring, because I want the 2 daggers on each cab march. You could
Yeah,
you
and
could figure,
probably I could
yeah,
go defend the vengeance on ZL Herman
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it's quite bad.
Well, I actually, if I had to put the vengeance on one march, I would put it on the archer, just because the archer is going to get targeted the most on the field.
Yeah.
Right. So like, rather than putting on a march that doesn't get targeted as much, if people are actively like in dot mode targeting archers, then at least you want that. What is it, like 8% counterattack damage or something? Like you want it to hurt the most. Like you want the vengeance to get the most use. I think it would actually be the
Yeah.
archer. Right. Now the reason why I'm saying a ring and not a horn is because ZL's rage engine is actually really good, especially when he's a primary. When he's a primary, that rage engine is more than enough. You're way more like likely to overrage using a horn. So I don't think a horn should be on the infantry or the archer march, right? So that almost makes it where for both cab marches, you want a horn and then do the dagger on each, and then you have the ring on the ZL and the vengeance on the ZL, and then the
Yeah.
ring on the infantry, and then you put a greatest glory there, and that's probably how I would pair those 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually saw your not video stream that you did with Big Kane talking about why ZL should be primary.
Yeah,
And
that's right. I mean,
got a lot of
I
insight on
didn't
that.
I
I'm
didn't
very
know that. Like
keen.
he taught me a lot, because I didn't know the marquee effect is
Yeah.
actually giving you that much rage. I didn't know that, and it was actually pretty eye opening, because it made a lot of sense why when I ran ZL primary, as opposed to Boudica primary, the ZL primary that's so much better, right? Because not only do you get that rage engine, but then also you get the 5 target AOE off first. Like the skill damage taken
Yeah.
increase, it just doesn't, it can't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other than that, I don't really have anything unless you have any like questions or anything.
Yeah, I think that's about it from my side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with anything, you have my DM. So like, any questions come up, you people usually follow up, or any even like update where like once I don't know how much fighting you'll get in KVK3, but it's like update on how you're doing. It's always good to get that feedback. I would say the most consistent feedback I got, which doesn't really apply to you, is people that I finally like convinced to use the PC or at least a laptop or something, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's so much better." That's been like consistent. Like I don't think of anyone like I got like, and some are hesitant to use a PC, and I actually get them to use a PC, and they're like, "Oh my god, like no, the phone's just as good." It's just not. It's not even close. But you don't have that problem.
Yeah. I mean, mainly I use the iPad to fight because I do use PC, but then I think it's also because of the quality of my laptop is just suboptimal, and also like with laptop as compared to a phone, it is bigger, so at least it's not like a phone. Because when I fight on my phone, I want to kill myself because it's so bad.
Yeah, I think like I know I think a Hara plays on an iPad. I know Farmer plays on an iPad, and Redline playing on an iPad, right? And like they all do pretty well. So I just always assume like an iPad is better than a phone, because phone for
It's
me
bigger. Yeah.
before the new dot mode, and I haven't tried it since the new dot mode came out. Like it's I I play so bad trying on my phone, so I don't even try it anymore. It's like it's almost fighting is just all PC for me now.
Yeah, fighting on the phone is not it.
Yeah. Well, unless you're Siege, maybe. I think you could do it with Siege.
Probably because Siege, you just need to park it there.
Yeah, you just park it and then just like kind of just like pick up. You could actually do it with Siege. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but you don't have anything else? That's all I have. Definitely stay in touch. I mean, I'll see you in Scream. I think I'm actually. Let me just end the recording here.
Okay,
All right.
sure.